Morning, Your Excellencies, Councillors, partners, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. I am Seema Bhatia Pantaki from DFID in India, and I am not your host for today. But I just wanted to quickly run through what we're going to do in the course of this exciting day. We're going to start with a few remarks from our head of office, Mr. Sam Sharp, about all the work that DFID is helping do in the exchange of innovations between India and Africa. This will be followed by a panel discussion where we have our ambassador from Ethiopia, we have our counselor from Rwanda, I think we're still waiting our High Commissioner from Kenya, and then we have partners from SEWA who will talk about what the work that they're already doing in other countries on innovations in Africa. This will be followed by a quick tea break, and then we have two exciting sessions where we'll tell you a little bit, or rather our partners will, about the kind of stuff that they're doing on using innovations to solve some of the biggest global development challenges we face today. We will then regroup to have a discussion around what we can do to support this. In fact, if you stay till the end of the day, the last session, we'll have a nice present for you where we'll tell you how DFID is actually supporting this work and can help you. So please do stay. This is followed by lunch, and our partners will be here to talk a little more about the work that they're doing, answer your questions, and just have a good day today, have a dialogue. That's really what we're looking for. So without much ado, I'd like to invite Mr. Sam Sharp, the head for DFID in India, to give a few remarks. Thank you.
It's really nice to be here this morning with representatives from African countries and from partner organisations who are involved in this exciting agenda of innovations exchange between India and Africa. Innovations exchange is a two-way street between India and Africa, as indeed between so many countries around the world. Now we have faced common challenges and looking for common innovations and learning that can address those challenges. DFID is delighted to be associated with this event and supporting this event this morning. India is widely regarded now across the world as a laboratory, a starting point for innovative solutions in addressing development challenges at scale, because anything that's done in India needs to be able to address challenges on a very large scale. So we think about interesting innovations in India in recent years in delivery of clean drinking water, solar energy, smart technology, innovative partnerships between public and private sector entities. India's exciting growth story over the last decade resonates with many African countries who are also experiencing a growth miracle. So do some of the challenges that India faces have relevance in Africa. Issues around expanding markets, issues around effective and efficient delivery of basic services at scale, issues around creation of opportunities for inclusive development, financial inclusion, and other things that India is pioneering here. So there's much to be learned about sharing and exchanging lessons and experiences.
To you, and I hope that Jeff is going to interview me after this. Okay. I work for UKAID, Department of International Development. I worked for them longer than I want to admit to you. When I first started with them, obviously straight from primary school, and I've worked with them all my career, all my working life. Development then was training, it was providing people to do jobs in ministries, and it was building bridges. But I believe that the people in this room are now the future of development. And one example I want to give you of how what I used to do has changed is a company came to the FID about 10 years ago now. And they just wanted a little bit of money because the model that they had just wasn't going to make money. So they just wanted a little bit of seed money. It took a chance. 10 years later, that innovation is M-Pesa. So that was 10 years ago. You guys here are the future of development as far as I'm concerned. And if this idea can come along with you, we'll be very lucky people. Good luck.
DFID has been working in Ethiopia, and in my previous assignment, I have closely worked with DFID, and DFID is always very effective, and they have been helping us in education, health, and so on and so forth. So now, as India has many innovative ideas and programs that has been implemented to assist poor people to also generate inclusive growth, I believe that it would be very important for us. Why do I say that India's innovative ideas could be replicated in Ethiopia?
It is an interesting discussion because in Africa in general, I believe, and in Rwanda in particular, we believe in South-South cooperation, where we have common challenges and we can find common avenues of solutions to address those challenges. The sectors in Africa in which we need innovations because it produces inclusive growth is, and I think it is agriculture, first of all, because more than 70% of our population are involved in agriculture in their daily life.
In Kenya now, our objective is to achieve food security. If many of you have been reading in the press, we are having problems. There's famine, looming famine that's coming. So our thrust actually is to develop our agriculture, move towards having irrigation. Right now we are having rain-fed agriculture that's prominent. So irrigation is now our focus, and we're also focusing on mechanization. And so India is a good benchmarking country. It is a home of innovators in that area. You have technology that we would like. In fact, India is a good ground because you have the basic, you have the middle level, and then you have the very sophisticated. So it's a very good ground to benchmark so that we can be able to pick what we want from there.
SEWA was started in 1972 from Ahmedabad in Gujarat, and it was started as a trade union of women workers working in the informal economy, and which consists of agriculture workers and women artisans and street vendors, construction workers, all these type of workers. And now we are working in more than 10 states in India, and the total membership of SEWA trade union is about 1.9 million. So it is India's largest women's trade union, and ours is a joint strategy of struggle and development, which means that through trade union we do all the advocacy efforts, and also we start with organizing women workers so that they can come together, and then for development we promote cooperatives and federations. So that has been our major innovation, you can say, over the years.
You're an agricultural extension officer tasked with training farmers on a new practice. It's a daunting challenge. Communities are large and diverse. Terrains are difficult to navigate and are remote. even in countries like India with over 100,000 extension officers of the public and private sectors, as well as Ethiopia with about 54,000 extension agents, it really is a very challenging type of practice. And there's also the issue of motivation, both for farmers to trust an extension agent coming in from the outside, as well as for these extension agents who are toiling in the sun and finding that less than 2% of farmers in India report receiving information that they utilized for themselves on their own farms from an extension agent. So at Digital Green, what we do is we partner with existing organizations both in the public, private, civil society sectors that are working with these rural communities, and we train them to produce short 8 to 10 minute videos that are essentially by the community for the community, to exchange agricultural practices that can boost their productivity, as well as health and nutrition practices that can improve these communities' qualities of lives. Over the last 6 years, we've expanded our work now across 7 states in India to reach out to about 150,000 farmers. And really the first questions that people ask when they watch these videos is often, what is the name of the person in the video and which village is he or she from? Really to authenticate that this is coming from somebody that they can rely on and they can trust as somebody relevant to their own practices. Now, due to the limitations of electricity and internet connectivity, these videos aren't just shared sort of online. They are online on YouTube, but the way in which these videos are screened is using this device, which you see in this image, which is a battery-operated mobile projector. And that video is screened by somebody from the community to essentially connect what people are seeing with what they were doing and to connect the information with various types of products and services that might be needed to take action on that information that people are exposed to. And this isn't just a one-time screening, but rather these small groups of about 15 to 20 individuals, primarily here in India, women self-help groups that are watching these videos every 2 weeks, that they're watching these videos successively based on seasonal considerations and based on geographic sort of sensitivities to be appropriate at the right time in the right place about practices that people can actually adopt at the time that they watch these programs.
Of how do we address the problem of women's safety, and how do we address the problem of community safety? How do we build safer communities? And this is a preventive way of addressing safety, not only looking at violence after it has occurred, but how do we build from the community level safer communities? We know that cities are growing across the world. We know that safety and violence in cities is an increasing problem, which we need to find ways of addressing, because the violence in cities prevents a lot of economic activity. It prevents women from going out, it prevents sometimes girls from accessing schools, it prevents a range of activities from taking place. We believe very strongly that in order to have safer cities and safer communities, we need to engage with the community. We need to engage with people. We don't believe the solution only lies with the police. Our tendency is when a violent incident occurs, we look at the police and point our fingers. But in fact, while the police need to certainly do their job much better, we believe very strongly that unless people become involved in safety and people begin to recognize that they have a role to play in creating safer communities, we are not actually going to have safer communities. We may have better responses to violence, but we're not going to build a culture of non-violence and safety. If you look at the right picture, there are pins on a map. It's a map-based application. It's available on Android and iPhone platforms. It will be available on Windows, and it's also going to be available on an online platform. And the idea is to get people to pin where they feel unsafe, but not just pinning issues of violence. It includes pinning where you have experienced violence, but also a methodology which we call the safety audit. If you look at the left picture, there are 9 parameters which we have included in defining what makes people feel safe or unsafe. It's not merely the incident of violence, but what prevents us and what actually determines our behavior is often if we think a place is unsafe. If we think something is unsafe, we respond in a different way.
When we talk about access to medicine and shaping market dynamics for access to sustainable and quality and low-cost medicines, what is important is there's a complex value chain which stretches from discovery of a product, testing it, then getting it approved not only by the stringent regulatory authorities in the country, which are the development partners authorities, but also in-country regulations. And then looking at manufacturing, looking at getting past regulations, procurement, distribution, and delivery before it reaches the appropriate use. What I'm talking about now is the partnership which we have funded through Clinton Health Access Initiative, who couldn't be here today, so I'm presenting on their behalf. This is an innovative model of public-private partnership. It uses public funds, and I say public funds why? Because this is basically for procurement of drugs by African governments or through procurement agencies which are funded through development partners in Africa and other low-income countries. And basically this public fund is used to stimulate incentives for private sector companies to again invest more strongly in development area.
We were actually volunteering for an organization where we were really sensitized to the problem of anemia. And being a doctor, going for post-graduation was my next aim, but we deferred and we went into studying medical devices. And we have invented a non-invasive hemoglobin measuring device, which is battery operated, truly non-invasive, gives you result in 1 minute. Just put your finger in for a minute and get your results. So it's that easy. Having said that, when we first encountered the problem of anemia, we were really we had very little knowledge about the magnitude of the problem. And when we were studying the magnitude of the problem and what kind of compliance issues we'll face, we found this graph, and according to this, 1/4 of the world is anemic, especially pregnant women and children. And it is hampering creativity, productivity, cognitive development in children, low birth weight babies, maternal mortality, infection risks because hemoglobin is low. And that is where we invented non-invasive hemoglobin measuring device. So as I told you, just switch on the device, position your finger, get the output on the screen. That's it.
My name is Valsala Kumari and I am the Executive Director of Kudumbashree. Just a few words about Kudumbashree. It is a state-sponsored program for eradicating poverty. Kudumbashree represents, or rather Kudumbashree has, 4 million poor women, and it is one of the strongest networks of poor women in the entire country. This is just the logo of Kudumbashree, which the 3 stems representing economic development, social development, and women's development. The challenge and solution, our greatest challenge was to eradicate poverty in a very cost-effective manner. When we started Kudumbashree about 15 years back, according to statistics, there were about 35 to 40% poor people in our state. But now, there's hardly a person who goes on an empty stomach at night to sleep, with the possible exception of very remote tribal colonies where we are focusing this year. Now, what was the solution? In very simple terms, we focused on empowering women and also on engendering governance.
So the Millennium Alliance was launched in July 2012, and our aim is to identify and test Indian innovations, the innovations and the great work that we just heard. So, the work that is being done in India, and we want to take it to other parts of the developing world, and Africa is one of our, major focus centers.
So thanks all for your participation. I think I've been having lots of conversation with different partners who have been doing work in this space. So in Telecap, through the Sankalp Forum, partners in Kenya and from other countries who attended that, the Business Innovation Facility, IFC. And the one thing that stood out for me, actually 2 things that have stood out for me, is that firstly, you always need to create partnerships. So you can't just take something from here and plant it in another country. It just doesn't work like that because it's not sustainable. And the second thing is that you don't just take the whole model and stick it there. So you may have like one of the Biosense instrument we saw may work, but it's not. You have to work on the business model around it. So the advice that I've received over and over again is that not only do you create partnerships at both ends to make things sustainable, but also you try and pick out bits that work in other other geographies rather than taking everything at one go. So thank you very much for giving us a sense of where the demands are coming from.